Now to the abrupt downfall of Silicon Valley Bank that has led to a government takeover of the nation's 16th largest bank. And now the Justice Department and SEC are investigating the SVP and New York-based Signature Bank collapses.
Joining us now is the senior senator from Louisiana and a member of the Senate Finance Committee, Bill Cassidy. Senator Cassidy, thanks so much for being with us. So let's just start. People want to place blame. Who is to blame for the Silicon Valley Bank's collapse? And what needs to happen to keep this from happening again?
Well, two things. I'm a doctor, so I'm going to use this term. There needs to be a post-mortem. The post-mortem will first establish who was to blame, if you will, and secondly, what we should do going forward. Some folks want to immediately rush to a new regulation. Let's figure out what happened first. I will point out that I'm told people who looked at their publicly available financials in December saw that they were heavily invested in long-term low-interest yield assets, and yet they clearly had the obligations on the depositor side. Somebody could have recognized that mismatch in a high inflationary period. Apparently, some short sellers did. The question will be, why did not the regulators?
If you don't bank with SVB, why should you be concerned about this? Is there something that regular Americans need to be looking at with this bank collapse and just looking at their own banking situation?
You know, you've got at least three layers of an answer. Your bank is safe. Like wherever you are, your bank is safe. It was safe before, but it's particularly safe after the FDIC made their statements in the last couple of days. The next issue, will these businesses be skittish and move their accounts to too big to fail banks out of the community and regional? If that happens, obviously the too big to fail gets even bigger and the regional and community gets smaller. I think that would be a mistake. We should avoid that from happening. The third level, this was actually concentrated in the tech community. We rely upon the innovation in that tech community to fuel a lot of positive change in our economy. I was concerned that disproportionate impact upon these startups could end up damaging the economy, not because it takes it out of my wallet, but it takes the innovation out of our future. I think that has been avoided.
Senator, it is also important to note that you voted for a 2018 bank deregulation bill that raised the threshold for increased oversight on banks from $50 billion in assets to $250 billion. Silicon Valley Bank just had over $200 billion in assets at the time of its collapse. Do you stand by your vote for less bank regulation?
Would I stand by that vote with what I knew then? Absolutely. And by the way, what I know now? Probably so. I'm not sure it is a failure of the regulation. I think it is a failure of the regulator. Recall what I just said. I'm told that there were people who short sold the stock and made like over $500 million. The traders knew that the bank was in trouble before the regulators. That's a problem. It's not like it was hidden. It was in their public statements as to what their long-term assets were and what their obligations were. This is not really rocket science. So, and obviously people made money off of that. Why didn't the regulators pick it up? So before we rush to, oh, we've got to do something, let's first figure out what happened. But it appears it was a failure of the regulators.
Yeah, and that question of regulators is something that I'm sure that you guys on Capitol Hill will be looking at. I also want to talk to you about Social Security. You're leading a bipartisan working group looking into shoring up Social Security long term. I feel like we've been talking about this for years, but what is going to happen if lawmakers don't address the issue of Social Security?
I'm so glad you brought that up. By current law, when the program goes broke in 9 years, people get a 25% cut, 24% cut in the amount they're getting now. It isn't in the by and by. No, it's in 9 years, where if I'm getting $1,000, I'll get $750 per month. For many Americans, they cannot afford to take that hit. That's why we have to do something now. By the way, I call Social Security the Silicon Valley Bank of Retirement Systems. It's got lots of obligations, and its investment strategy is terrible. Insufficient to meet these obligations. Insolvency, being broke, is only 9 years away.
And Senator, a final question for you. I know your group has yet to submit a proposal, but what solutions are you looking at?
Well, the centerpiece of what we're attempting to do is to create a fund, a diversified investment fund, separate from Social Security, totally separate. The risk is borne by the fund, not by the beneficiary. and we would allow the power of the American economy to grow the fund to the degree that we could bridge Social Security into solvency. By the way, under our approach, nobody would take a 24% cut. Off the table, not going to happen, and we'd use this fund to make up differences. It's the way that the Canadians do it, it's the way the Norwegians do it, it's the way the Brits do it, Wisconsin, you go down the list, that's what a well-funded pension fund does. That's what we need to do with social.
Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.